Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awkwardness Podcast, where we talk to one of your favorite artists about how they got started in music, and I mean the very beginning, and they play us one of the first songs they ever wrote. We chat about what kept them in the game and what the future holds. I'm your host, Rose Sean, and normally I'm joined by my brothers on mics, Terrence LeClaire and Tony Tancredi, but for this episode, I guess you could say I went rogue. And by rogue, I mean I went to Portland, which I think is almost the same thing. So this week's guest has actually been on my mental wish list since July 2021 when we first got this whole podcast idea rolling. I saw them at a block party in Portland and I was like, am I seriously seeing this amazing band in a parking lot? Their single Hot Blooded caught fire with almost 19 million plays on Spotify to date. They're on so many playlists and they just finished a North American tour with Cannons and Jane Leo. I'm talking about the ethereal electropop trio from Oregon, New Constellations. And I feel so fortunate that we were able to schedule an interview when I was visiting Portland this summer. Sometimes the stars just align. Hey! Anyway, here's my cozy chat with singer Harlee Case of New Constellations.
That's what it felt like. I was like, what did I do to you? Like,
you'll never know.
I think I was just gone a lot. And I think that they were like pissed that I wasn't there.
Yeah, well, right. People say cats are so independent, but if you are gone too much, they will absolutely pee on something you love. Yeah. They're like, oh, don't expect to pet me now, motherfucker.
Dude, I know. No remorse. That's the thing. It's like dogs, when you're like, I can't believe you did this.
They're like, I'm sorry.
Exactly. And cats are like, I'm not even going to like pretend like I care about.
They're like, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
You fucked up. This is your punishment.
Silly cats.
All right. Well, we're recording. Hi, Harlee.
Hi.
Welcome to Awkwardness, but it's funny for me to say that because I am visiting you. And we're in this very cool, like quirky basement in Portland. And this is the first time I've recorded the show by myself, so hopefully I don't fuck it up. But I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for wanting to do this with me and to come over to this basement dwelling.
Yeah, this is actually a very, very nice house. And what we do here is we get in a time machine and we go back to the beginning of your life as a musician. Mm-hmm. So how did that start for you? Did you like take piano lessons? Did your parents want you to play violin, like anything like that?
My mom was a musician and my dad played a little bit of guitar. And I mean, they were super stoked. They got my sister a drum set and me an electric guitar for Christmas one year. And it was kind of off to the races. I took a couple guitar lessons, but I really quickly was just playing my own stuff and never really doing any of the curriculum that I should have been doing. And so they, fired him really quickly because they're like, this girl is not paying attention to anything that she is like learning. And that's kind of always been my like learning style, is just kind of, I don't know, figuring out what sounds good instead of like technically knowing what I'm actually supposed to do. But that was like 14 when I really...
Cool.
Yeah.
So they got the guitar and the drum set when you were about 14.
Mm-hmm.
At that age, it's like, I don't want to play scales.
No.
I want to learn my favorite songs and or just fuck around.
I'm trying to sing about how I will never find the love of my life again like I did when I was 14. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Right. I'm trying to sing about how my life is basically over because I'm 15 and don't have a boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an important time for me.
Yes, I feel that 100%. Definitely was in a similar vibe. No, it's great. I love that your parents were like, here, let me set you up with this. And it is also funny that they were like, well, this guitar teacher is clearly not working out. I don't know. My guy was just like, yeah, whatever you want. So I would just come in and be like, teach me this Nirvana song. And he'd be like, okay.
That would have been cooler.
You sure you don't want to learn the Mixolydian mode? Like, well, sure, write it down for me. Never did anything.
Not going to do it.
So you were like, lessons, whatever. I'm just going to figure it out. Were you like jamming with your sister?
My sister actually never got into playing the drums at all. No. Like they were set up in her room for a while, but yeah, I think too that I really really took it on as like a part of my persona so much that she was like, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to play soccer. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like she's like, you do music. Like Right. So we had our different things going on.
Yeah. How close are you in age?
We're 3 years. She's 3 years younger than me, but we're like best friends now, which is amazing.
But that makes sense because when you're that close in age, I feel like you like Not exactly compete, but maybe a little bit. And so like the differentiation is really important, especially as you're like teenagers and like developing like your own identity.
Exactly.
I get that.
I played a show probably when I was like 20, and I had her come sing like a couple songs with me. And so I think like in the future and stuff that, and now since there is like no competitiveness and we like have very much so our own lives, that I think that we could sing and like do stuff together in the future, you know?
Right. Yeah. Now it would be cool. But then it was like, I have my own thing.
Exactly.
Thank you. Well, that's cool. So like, did you write anything before, or was this kind of like, okay, now I play guitar, now I'm going to try to write something? Like, how did that kind of go for you?
I always journaled a ton. But I definitely I don't think I was like, oh, actually, you know what? That is a total lie, because I don't remember a ton of my like younger childhood. And we just watched all these home videos, and in every single video, no matter what, I was just singing a song that I was making up, like from like 3 years old. Like, can you see me? Like, and I'm like, it was actually so funny. We were watching this and my parents were like, we forgot about this too. And like the songs were always like I was so heartbroken at like, 5
Even when you were
years
little?
old. Yeah. Like that's, Spotify came up with a thing like, this is your style. And it was hopeful. Oh my gosh, what is it? Like hopeful desire, hopeful yearning. And I was like, that is me as a writer, like so much, and like always has been. Like, I'm so sad, but like I think it could work. But like,
Yeah, the algorithm got your number. I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're right. I don't know.
They are sometimes.
But that is funny. I mean, you see like YouTube videos sometimes of like little kids on Star Search or some shit, and you're like, where did this come from? Because you are way too young to know. I mean, I feel like honestly, Justin Bieber, like
Totally.
where did he have all of that in him when he was like 12 years old? Like, where did that come from?
Reincarnation, baby. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, maybe there's some past life, like something that needed to come out. So you started writing like pretty much right away, and were you writing like mostly love songs or?
I feel like the majority of them were in that tone of like, there's something that I want that I can't have. That was the main thing. It's like every once in a while, still to say, like, I'll get a love song in there every once in a while, but it's usually like some shit's fucked up in it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right. It's always sad. So I think that's interesting though too, because just like conceptually, like that's kind of teenage life, right? It's
Totally.
like there's a lot that I want that I am not able to get because I'm not like in charge of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember really feeling a lot of that. Like in high school, we were like, one day I'll be able to like choose when I eat dinner.
Totally. Go to bed when I want.
Yeah. Like not have to go to high school. Yeah. Being taken care of and having my bills paid wasn't that bad.
No, not at all. We had a pool too. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just like swim all day. Like I would love that. That would be great.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Central Point in Southern Oregon. Just a really small town.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you guys had a pool in Oregon? Wow.
We did.
Fancy.
It's way hotter in Southern Oregon than it is in Portland, like significantly. And yeah, my mom really wanted it. So
You're like, well.
So we did it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It honestly was cool because my mom really wanted our house to be the house that we wanted to bring all of our friends to. And so that we like always had people over, and that it was that way. Like we were always like the sleepover house and like having all the like birthday parties over at our house. And so it made it really like communal and just like, I'm really appreciative. It ended up being like a watering hole for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. When you're a kid, you're like, you just want somewhere to be. And, it's like, especially if you're in a small town, there's like, where are you going to go?
Totally.
We talk about supportive parents a lot. And it's like, not just like supporting your musical efforts, but like just like sort of supporting like your life and like making you happy. What do you remember like listening to when you were a kid? Like, what did your parents play?
Honestly, my dad was a pastor. And so like everything we were listening to was like Christian music, which, was my vibe for a moment in time. It's actually so funny because my mom but also would like listen to like Prince, which is like the complete opposite.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that is very secular.
Yeah, very opposite. But we weren't really like, I don't know, allowed to be like involved in that. We would just kind of hear it, You know, like
I like this isn't for you.
Exactly. We're not playing it like when you're in the kitchen, but yeah, we had tons of stuff that we like just weren't allowed to listen to, or like even like just listening to secular like radio, like they would always be like turning it off or like putting it back to something that was, you know, more Christian oriented.
Interesting. So that's funny that it was like more for you guys than for them.
Yeah.
Listening. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're making an effort. I get it.
Yeah. They're definitely not like that now. And they're like actually the most supportive parents in like the whole world. They actually let me spend my entire college fund on moving to LA by myself, like right out of high school to go pursue music. And they just like let me do it, which I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe. But like, yeah, they, when I started writing music, and my boyfriend at the time's stepdad was in a band, and he was like, do you want to come like open for us? And I was like 14. And so I literally started playing bar gigs, like opening for these bands, and I would get like escorted into the bar and then escorted out.
Right.
Yeah. But I was like every weekend from like, you know, 14 to like graduating high school, like I was the music girl. Like,
Wow. And wait, and that was in Oregon or
in Oregon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then I went to LA, but I really didn't do anything in LA. I played at like a couple restaurants and like worked as a host and came home.
Yeah. I mean, I moved there when I was 21, and it was hard. It's a very, very big city.
Dude, I feel like it could have been, not to say I'm really happy with the way my journey has happened, but like even being 21 instead of being 18, I feel like I couldn't go out to do anything, which was just so hard because like that's what everyone is going out to do, this stuff that is like at bars or at venues that are 21 plus. And so it just like really segregated me from even like all the people that I worked with. I couldn't go do anything with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I don't have a fake ID.
Yeah. I tried, but I failed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up coming back, and my friends were like, hey, like you're like making bad decisions on like a regular basis. It was so correct. Like everyone was like, okay, don't let like LA corrupt you. You're like this young like pastor's child like moving out there. And that's like very much so. I like went down there, and all of a sudden it was just like chaos, and I was just like partying really, but like mainly just at this restaurant that I worked at.
Right, because that's where you were allowed to hang out.
And they like let me drink there. So it was like,
I mean, so you were playing bar gigs in high school. So let's rewind a little bit and get into that. So you start playing guitar at 14, you start writing your own stuff. So how did these bar gigs kind of come to be? Like, did you just sort of reach out and go like, hey, I play, or like?
So my boyfriend's stepdad having that band got me like my first like year of playing. And then everyone that booked at those places, it was really awesome. Like everyone was always just so like trying to hook me up, and like it was so cool. Like honestly, I feel like I was like, it's such a small town, so it was like everyone was like, she's gonna make it big, you know. And so like everyone was always trying to like find places for me to play. And so yeah, I actually never, I don't think I ever reached out to anyone. I think that it always was like someone in the crowd being like, oh, my dad owns the vineyard down the way, and like we have live music on Sundays or whatever,
that's
you know.
So cool.
Yeah,
like
it was
a whole
really
supportive community. Were you playing by yourself?
Yeah, I was. And like it ended up being that I ended up finding kind of my niche in doing like these 3-hour sets, which is crazy. Like playing for like a dinner kind of.
Yeah.
And I would basically the first 2 hours would be like stuff that I wrote, a couple of covers, and then I would just like make up the last hour, and just like no one would ever know. And it was just like so crazy because it's like I didn't have enough material to do it. And so I was just like, oh, I'm just like, when you have a nice voice too, like you can kind of say whatever, and people are like, oh, that sounds nice. And you're like, I was just like singing about spaghetti. Like you didn't even realize. Like,
yeah, right. And like, especially if you're playing like while people are eating dinner, they may only be sort of like,
oh yeah, no one was really paying
attending,
attention like fully. Like I was like ambiance a lot of times too.
But that's neat. Did they pay you?
Yeah, which is crazy to me to think about now. Like they would always pay me. My rate was $100 an hour, and they would pay it. And like, yeah,
wow,
yeah,
which was pretty good.
It was really good. Like,
yeah, that's like I've never made that kind of money on a show in LA. I'll tell you that,
dude. I mean, sometimes even now, like I'm like, okay, we'll do it for free. You know, it's like it's not. I feel like it was just like this niche that people were down to help me with, which was great.
That's kind of a lot of money for like a 14-year-old, like $300 in a single night.
Dude, it really was. It was. And I didn't save any of it.
Well, hopefully you put it all back into music, or at least cute outfits. I don't know.
I think I just mainly bought cute outfits and candy, and there was like a market down the street, and I feel like that was like always where I was, just like buying candy, which is
I just blew it all on candy.
yeah, popsicles.
Nice. That's funny. It's like some people, you know, like snort all their money. You were like, oh no, it was all pixie sticks. Yeah,
exactly. I was getting sugar high.
That's funny. What kind of music were you listening to at that time? Like, what was sort of your inspiration for your artist project?
I really loved this girl, Tristan Prettyman, was like my favorite artist. And then also this girl, Jem, which they weren't like big people.
I loved Jem.
Yeah, but like, I would actually, I remember watching the OC, and they had like such good music curation. And I would like find singer-songwriters through that. And that would be like what I was like hooked on. But Tristan Prettyman was like my number one inspiration.
Interesting.
She's like a San Diego, just like singer-songwriter, surfer chick.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with her, but I loved Jem. I had her album. I remember like she like sings Maybe I'm Amazed at the Wedding or something on the OC.
Yes. Oh my God, that cover is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, the OC was really great for that. Them and like Grey's Anatomy.
I feel like, I mean, getting like these sync deals, I feel like it's so massive. Like learning about Canons, like that's like they're literally Fire For You got on like one show during COVID, and then like every major label was like in their inbox the next day, you know? And it's like, wow, like especially too just like this like with streaming and I mean just like social media and TV, like so many people queuing into like these certain things. It's just like it can happen so fast. Like yeah, I was talking with the people from Canada, and they're like, yeah, we've been a band for 10 years. And like, this just happened overnight. And now this is like, everything's changed. You know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's funny, like people kind of forget this now because they're so huge, but like No Doubt was like a really hardworking Southern California band for like 9 or 10 years before their first album came out. Yeah, it took 10 years before they got like a real record deal. And it's just like the idea of like sticking with it that long, right?
Dude, I get it. And it's like, I feel really grateful I like own my own businesses. So I'm like very flexible in like what we have going on, you know? But I cannot imagine if I had to like actually show up for like 40 hours a week at an office and do this. Like, I feel like it would be very, very hard. So I feel grateful. It's like reality these days. Everything is so expensive, and like, you know, a lot of music, you know, you're not making money. You're just like doing it because you love it. And like, I don't know. That's also too, it's like, I will be really sad if one day the passion and drive is not there. Cause at this point it's like, I couldn't not, you know what I mean? Like I like want to so bad. Like I look forward to band practice every week, and it's just like, but I can imagine maybe after you're doing it for 20 years or something and like nothing ever clicked, you might be like,
you get tired of struggling.
Totally.
You know, some people I think get the bug so bad that it's like, I would do this in my own bedroom if nobody wanted to hear it. That kind of thing. Like I feel like Lady Gaga, like if she wasn't famous, like if she just had like some regular weekly gig at a piano bar, she'd still be doing what she does, you know?
Yeah.
So it's special. Sometimes you do kind of feel like, oh no, like how is this what have I signed myself up for?
Dude, I was in a pretty traumatic relationship when I got back from LA and stopped playing music altogether for a couple years. And so I feel like this like insane like gratitude for like doing it again, because I know what it was like to not, and be like so like going to shows and just like secretly like crying under my sunglasses, just being like, what are you doing? Why are you not singing, you know?
Yeah, well, it's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
But it is really wild how like you get so into the identity of being a musician, especially starting at 14 like you did. You're like, but I've always done this.
Yeah.
And so like you're sitting on the sidelines watching other people do it, and you're like, who am I?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, so I think I saw that you and Josh started playing together when you were teenagers. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of my like first songs that I ever wrote, I was 14 and he was 16, and he like recorded it for me in his room on like a desktop computer, like GarageBand, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm so sad that like I don't have it, because like that would just be so awesome. Like we burnt a CD of it and like that was the end of it, you know?
Right. And God knows where that went. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, it honestly just was like so beautiful, because even like back then, like he just believed in me and was like, oh yeah, like heard me saying, it was like, oh yeah, let's try to do something. And it was so cool because I moved to Portland and he had already been living here for many years, and we had kind of fallen off of being like close friends. He was like, you know, a couple years older than me. And so I was always like, I thought he was so cool, but he like didn't think I was as cool. And so like when he like moved away and like, you know, graduated, he was like, okay, like you're like in high school. Like we don't need to stay in contact that much.
I have cool college friends now.
Exactly. But like I was really adamant that I like just really loved him and like wanted to continue being friends. And it was cool because like, he was going through a breakup and I was really there for him. And I basically like was like, I want to start this band. I like put it on my Instagram, and we had been like hanging out closer for like the last year or something. And I just remember him being like, hey, I saw your like thing that you said you want to sing. Like, I just think it should be me. It should have always been me. Like, let's like do this, you know?
Aww.
And like, I was so terrified. Like I never would work with other musicians ever because I was so insecure about that I didn't really know what I was doing. And so like people would always say, you want to come jam, and like think that I was like stuck up because I wouldn't, but I was
like,
just
oh,
terrified.
I don't jam. Yeah.
Like I was like, you're going to see that I'm actually like a fake musician. And so when I started writing with him, I just had like a mass amount of voice recordings. My radio didn't work in my car. I literally sent him like 200 like voice memos. And I was like, just like look through that, see if there's anything you like. Cause I was like scared to like write something with him on the fly. And he like, God bless his heart, went through everything and literally like pulled out stuff that he liked, like saved it all and was like, okay, let's like work on this stuff. He truly like produced me as like an artist. Like I was so scared to not have a guitar in my hands. Like when we were writing at first, he's like, okay, Harlee, like, you know, next practice, like you're going to have to stand up while you sing. And then like, you know, after I stand up for a while, he's like, okay, like see this space here, like we're going to be playing on a stage sometime. Like you got to move around a little bit. And would just like, as I was like moving around a little bit, he would just be like giving me eye contact, like, you know, like, it's good. It's good. Like you got it, you know? And like, I feel like I'm a pretty good performer now. And I just feel like that he like, if it wouldn't have been for him, I don't know that I would have like got there in the way.
Well, he just helped you develop the performance skill. That's really cool. I mean, I think like we talk about this a lot on the pod, how like finding the right collaborators a lot of times is kind of like, you know, it's the secret sauce. It's like the key, because you obviously had the talent, but you kind of need... Sometimes you kind of need somebody to bounce off of a little bit.
Absolutely.
Or somebody who's, maybe just like a little bit more knowledgeable or a little more experienced or something to just, you know, gently nudge you in the right direction.
Well, it's been so cool too, because he just like has such a vision with just like music and composition. And so it's like always just been so cool, because like now everything we just like, you know, basically start with nothing, and we both don't come in with anything and like freestyle everything together and like create in the moment. And I just feel like he has such a clear idea. Like I'll sing like a certain something. He's like, okay, no, we got to repeat that one part again, you know? And he's just like, so like, I don't know. He has such a vision. And so it's been really nice. And especially now having Kyle in the band too, like I feel like we're both really talented at what we do. And he like gets to kind of like compose what we're doing and make it into this like song, you know? And it's just like, yeah, I'm just so impressed with him.
It's great. It's so nice when the stars align, you know? There's also something to kind of like knowing that you're making good music.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, this is,
It is.
It feels good. It feels good. And I was just listening to your stuff last night. refresher. I mean, I love Hot Blooded, and it's funny. I hear it like all over the place. Like I'll just hear it in like a random restaurant in LA, and I'm like, oh my God, I met them.
Dude, when is this gonna happen? Like people always hear it out in the world, and like I don't. I've never heard it out in the world, and I'm just like, one day I'm like waiting for this moment to happen. Like I feel like that's like I just feel like every musician feels this way. Maybe not. Like that. This is like a cornerstone of like being out in the world and like having it come on and you being like, no, this is my song.
Yeah.
Like,
But isn't that funny, right? That like all these other people are hearing it and you're like, I want
to hear it.
I mean, like, yeah, I've heard it before, but not in public. Yeah. That's really cool though, but I love that. And the video is really dope too.
Thank you.
I was going to kind of like rewind again because we sort of discussed in advance of this getting a recording to edit in of this song of yours from high school. So do you want to like just tell me about that a little bit? Like
Totally. It's called End of the Road, and it's about the end of a relationship, clearly. But yeah, it's just like a sad, kind of sweet song about like looking back at like things that you maybe would have done differently and can't now because it's like finished, and being like, I don't know that I'll ever like, classic high school. I don't know that I'll ever get over this.
Right. Well, the time it feels like you won't.
It's true. It's very true. Dude, it is so wild though, because it's just like there is something to that, like loving with having no like trauma or things that make you weary at all. So you're just like loving with like every bit that you possibly have. And I feel like, you do get older and you have like, past relationships that have done things to you that make you like, weary in different ways. And so it's just like, I don't know. Like I fall in love deeply now, but there is something to that, like really, really honest, young love,
Yeah. Before you've been burned, right?
Exactly.
Here at the end of the road, I'm trying my best just to not let you know that I'm not confused, I'm not alarmed, we're coming undone. Facing the honesty now, I wasn't always there just to let you know how much I care, how much I need you. We're coming undone. Here at the end of the road, I'm not sure I'll ever let you go. Here at the end of the road, we're coming undone. And I don't know how anymore to make this my life. Thought about calling on the Lord, 'cause it's been a while since I called the name of anyone at all. Here at the end of the road, I'm not sure I'll ever let you go. Here at the end of the road, we're coming undone. And I'm not sure how to feel about losing all that I am. And I'm not sure how to feel about losing all that I have. Here at the end of the road, I'm not sure I'll ever let you go. Here at the end of the road, we are coming undone.
Yes, I love it. I kind of live for this. Like I really think that there's something so like pure and beautiful about the way we write before we like quote unquote know how.
Yeah.
And also even like things people are embarrassed about, because sometimes people are like, oh, this is really embarrassing. And it's like, well, what about it was embarrassing to you? Because most of our guests, their old song is like actually objectively good. So is there anything about this song that is like sensitive or cringy to you now? Or are you like, no, it's pretty solid?
I still think it's a really good song. And that's why I was like, oh, well, because there are some songs that were more cringy for sure. But like, I remember writing this and being like, oh, wow, I think this is like your first like really like good song, you know?
Something you like actually felt like confident about?
Yeah. And like, I felt like the structure of it was great. And just like, yeah, like it felt, and it's like, I had been writing since I was 14. So it's like I had written hundreds of songs at that point. So it's like I didn't know what I was doing, but like I had some experience at that point,
Sure.
you know, and like I'm going off of only just like what I think of it, I guess. But yeah, I still think it's good. It still does like make me sad because it was just like a really sad time, you know, and I still like I was playing it here yesterday and I was like, oh, this.
I know, you're like, poor baby Harlee.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, you know.
I know. Yeah, you almost, and I think like more time goes by, sometimes you're like, you almost like see it as like a different person.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, that poor thing. And it's like not even almost you anymore in a way.
Truly, like there's a line in there that's like, I don't know how to feel about like losing all that I have and then like all that I am. And like now I'm just like, oh my gosh, like no relationship could ever take me from me ever again. Like I'm never losing all that I am ever again, you know? And
But
like
that's because you learned that lesson in that
true.
relationship, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
It's funny, people tend to also like really, I think, sort of delegitimize sometimes the experience of teenagers.
Totally.
And it's, I mean, they're your formative years. Like trauma that happens to you at that time can follow you forever. So it's like, as much as it's like, oh, you're being so dramatic, it's like, well, this might actually be a core memory.
Totally. This may actually traumatize me a little bit forever.
This may actually determine my attachment style for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. So I like to like, we get to visit that little person and be like, appreciate what they went through and, validate that for them. Okay, so you were gigging like crazy as a teenager in Southern Oregon, which is awesome. And then what was sort of behind the decision to go like, or what decided it for you that you were like, okay, I'm going to spend my college fund on going to LA?
It actually is a shitty story because it's cool and it's not cool. I sang in like a local contest and the like modeling agency of like our area basically was like, I don't usually represent singers, but I think you're really talented and I want to take you to like this basically big conference called IMTA in LA where it was like a bunch of models and actors and singers. And she was like, you had to basically do like 10 different categories and only one of them was singing. And she was like, don't focus on any of them, just focus on the singing things. I'm like going blindly, doing monologues and like all sorts of crazy stuff, which I will say, I won most sought after of the whole thing. And had like pages and pages of like contacts and literally like scholarships for like acting school. Like it was like honestly, and so she was like, you need to go to LA and you need to like do this. And so I was like, yes, like I'm like, let's go right now. You know what I mean? And at that conference, I met this man who wanted to manage me, and him and I still are friends now, 12 years later. 14 years later. And he wanted to manage me because he actually was like a music manager. And she was furious. And I had moved to LA and she didn't like give me any of the contacts of anything, just completely like cut me off. And so I didn't get to do any of those things and was just in LA then with nothing.
Oh my God.
And I had like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I'll like just try out all this stuff. Like I'll just like jump into like all these things. And like, this is going to be like my new life. So I'm just like, wow. I'm not into acting, but like maybe I could be, like who knows,
Here you are like this young, enthusiastic person, like ready to jump in with both feet and with all this energy. And she just ripped the rug out from under you. Damn.
Cold-hearted, honestly.
Cold-hearted.
I don't really hate that many people, but that was like a moment where I was just like, how dare you do that to like a basically kid?
Yeah. Why? How would you ever be so vindictive to like someone who is legally still a child? Like that's insane.
I'm like, you don't want this like good stuff to happen to me. Like clearly I got something good going on here. Like
yeah. Well, like I mean, the fact that you like killed it at all these things that like you weren't even your main vibe or your main goal, but you know. It's like that must have been such a horrible experience because you're already living in LA, you say.
The thing was in LA and I was still living in the small town and we went down to do it and I moved to LA like 2 months later because of it.
Right. Okay.
But while I moved there, we're having these conversations about maybe him managing me instead of her. And so when I was physically down there, she just like stopped talking to me.
So you like you had already moved there and she was like, no.
Dude, I didn't have enough money. So I literally was a live-in nanny for a child star working for trade. Like, and
just for like room and board.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And like, it was actually like this family was actually insane. Like they're like living off of these kids, and the dad was like a ventriloquist. Like so, there was like dummies. It was like it was super weird.
That's weird.
So I'm just like sleeping in this like child's bed, basically, like because the room that I had was like one of the kids' like older room, and so literally like it was like a kid's roung, and I was just like I remember like just being there and having this happen to me, like what am I doing? Like what do I do now? You know,
right.
Just moved my whole like life down here.
Yeah,
and, like,
I literally moved to another city. There's this other podcast that we like a lot called Thank You for Saying No. And I'm just like, hey, Kenya, this sounds like one of your stories. Because it's like, what could have been more devastating? But then a series of events, which I assume you're going to tell me, happen to like lead you to this point where it's like, oh, well.
It all works out. You
know?
But
that is just so bananas awful that it's like at the time you must have just thought, it's over. I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like, I had like this glimmer of hope though too, because I was like, okay, I just met this other music manager. Like, so like maybe something will happen here. But like, he's wonderful and I love him so much. But he was like, you need to like record some demos. Like you need to, you know, like find these people to like do this with in LA. He was in New York and I just didn't know anyone, you know, and like, and was just so scared. I ended up meeting one guy that I kind of wrote one song with, and it was like so bad because I was so scared. I was just like, there's nothing that's coming to my mind at any moment for any words because I'm just like mortified to say anything, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that stuff is, I mean, that honestly would have been intimidating probably anyway.
Yeah.
But the fact that, you know, you're going through something that's like super traumatic, but you kind of said you already had like a little bit of imposter syndrome. So like you didn't even want to jam with anybody. And then it's like, here's like some guy who's like a professional and you're like, I don't know. I sing sometimes.
Totally.
It's cool that this person in New York was like, well, here's like what you need to do.
Yeah.
At least kind of somebody going like, this is what you need. But I think a lot of singers, you know, struggle with like getting demos produced. And certainly, you know, certainly before everybody had GarageBand and it was kind of as sophisticated as it is now and all that. But yeah, just kind of being like, well, I mean, I have these songs, but how do I get them in a form that I can share them with people and have them be like, oh, good, and not just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, because that was the thing too. Is it's like, okay, I'm gonna record like just this acoustic and me. Where even then I knew that I like wanted to be in like alternative rock band. That was like what I really wanted, you know. And so I was like, how do I like turn this into that? Like I got no idea, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's like, so now I don't just need a producer, I need bandmates.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, again, like, and you're like an 18-year-old, like just, where do you even start?
Yeah, you go home, I guess, because I did that.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed for a year. I was like, let's give it a year. But like, yeah, I couldn't get any like traction with like anything, and I felt like I was just like floundering, like, and I was just like not making good decisions. And yeah, I mean, I quite frankly am very happy with that. Nothing happened for me musically then because I am like such a better person now with like very like strong worldviews and morals. And like I know where I'm standing. And like back then, like someone could have told me to like sing some fucked up song about something and I would have probably been like, yeah, like where do I sign? You know?
Like whatever for the opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that popped into my head when you were talking about like, you know, trying to find this producer and like people to work with and sort of being like, you know, a little lost in that process is this is also like the part of the story where often something really terrible happens because there's so many people that are, you know, unscrupulous in one way or another. So they're either like trying to take your money or, you know, have bad intentions towards you, especially like as like a cute young girl.
Totally.
There's a lot of opportunities for people to take advantage of someone else's naivete in one way or another. And it's like, I think you sort of instinctively know that, but you don't necessarily have the instincts to spot it.
Totally.
When it's happening. So it's like, it's a scary time. You're like Little Red Riding Hood tiptoeing through the woods, you know?
The amount of people that I would meet and they would be like, oh, like you're like from a small town and like just moved here, huh? Like it's written all like it's you, like, why are you here? You know? And like, I feel like I could sense that I was like just getting myself into situations that I was just like, I don't think this is going to be smart for me to be here like this. Like, you know?
Right. You were wearing like the Pollyanna sandwich board
exactly
on your chest and everybody was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another one of those things where you're like, oh, baby Harlee.
Exactly.
So you were kind of like, okay, I'm going home.
Yeah, I did. I threw in the towel. How's that saying?
The towel. You threw in the towel.
Threw in the something and yeah, went home. And I kind of went back to doing like the same stuff that I was doing at home. Just like playing gigs, but I definitely felt like defeated in a new way and was not ambitious anymore about it. Like I was just like, oh yeah, like I'll still like play in my room and stuff, but like I feel like I tried and I failed and like that whole like just all like I just like once I went to that contest thing and I like got such a good like I was like, this is it. Like I remember so much. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I haven't thought about this in so long. I listened to Katy Perry's fireworks song, baby, firework, and like looked out at the city and like cried. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is happening, you know? Like,
oh, bless. Well, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned Katy Perry because I was just thinking about the fact that, you know, she had like 2 or 3 record deals that fell through.
Yeah, I didn't know
before she got the one that made her famous, you know, and she tells that story a lot now. I don't know if that was like common knowledge maybe earlier in her career.
Totally.
So, but it's another really interesting example of how like sometimes when one door closes, another one opens and it's hard not to feel defeated, but it's like, it's kind of, I mean, unless you die, it's not the last chance. You know what I mean?
Very true.
But I mean, it's cool that you were like not so defeated that you didn't play anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely was only playing a little bit and then actually I geared it up a little bit more for a minute and won another singing contest and where I was sent to Nashville and I was supposed to like get to record while I was there and like meet with these people and like none of that happened. They literally just flew me to Nashville and it was like a free trip to Nashville, but like nothing happened with music, like period. What? Yeah. And after that, I was like in this just like chaotic relationship at that point. And like, I like hardcore stopped. And I started my first business around then. And I remember like my mom being like, are you sure? Like you're done? And me being like lying to everyone and be like, yeah, like I'm over music. Like I'm not doing it anymore. You know?
Like who are you lying to? Really? It's you.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Well, again, sometimes you need a break and you know, but I guess that's why they say never say never.
So true.
After that, were you kind of discouraged or were you like, oh, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I do? Or
no, that's when I like threw in the towel. Oh,
that was the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was done for a little bit. I honestly think it was probably like a couple years that I just like didn't touch my guitar, like was just like not writing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you doing during that time?
I was in and out of this relationship. I was nannying for a little bit and had a really great time with these kids. And then I started a vintage clothing company. And so I was like going to festivals and like vending pop-ups. I mean, doing like pop-ups and stuff and selling on e-commerce. And like, that was really fun. And it was really cool. It was like at the very beginning of Instagram. And so like Instagram was doing these things where they would like be like, these are our favorite vintage shops of Instagram. And I like got on one of those and gained like tons of followers in this like really short amount of time. And so my business was like really flourishing and it was super fun. And I like got really into taking all the photos for all of it and like hired my best friend to like work with me on it. And so it's been really cool because I own a creative agency now, and like all the things that I learned in that business I now do, today. And
very cool.
Yeah. So it was definitely, I was having fun in like a completely different way, and like being creative still, but just not with music. It was really cool though, because like this is just coming to me now that like the reason why I am able to have more free time to focus on music now is because of the skills that I learned in those off years. And so like if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have had this business now, which creates the lifestyle that I get to have,
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I'll go on tour and I'll leave. And like, no, it's all good. There's no repercussion to it whatsoever,
Yeah. I know. Sometimes you have to like lay groundwork for yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't really know that you're doing that, but it's, yeah. You said you were doing pop-ups at festivals, like music festivals?
Yeah.
So you were still kind of
in
the scene.
I they did a vintage market, the first vintage market at Coachella, and I got to go do that. And it was so crazy. Like literally me and my best friend Keisha, like borrowing a friend's parents' like SUV, hooking a U-Haul up and like driving down there.
Oh my God, you
and
drove all the way to Indio.
Dude,
wow.
I mean, I had to have enough clothes for 2 weekends. You know what I mean?
Right,
like it was mass amounts of stuff. Like it was honestly one of the most badass I have ever felt. I was like, I cannot believe that I'm like doing this right now. This is just me and you on the road, like trying to back this thing up in like LA. And it was just like so crazy.
I know, right?
But like there at Coachella, I had mentioned this earlier. It was like a pivotal moment for me. I was watching Group Love, Group Love, and I was watching them, and I just started crying under my sunglasses, and I was like, this is not happening. Like we are like, this should be you and this could be you, and the only reason why it's not is because you've given up on you, and like we are not doing that, And so I think that's when I came home and put the thing up on Instagram being like, I need to be in a band again. Like, who wants to play,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that because, sometimes it really is like a bolt from the blue moment. I like not always, like here I am surrounded by all of these musicians I admire. Like I'm watching this band I love. Why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I love that you're like, well, gonna go back to Oregon and put it on Instagram.
We're going to figure this out.
We are going to manifest this shit. That's great. And then so was it, did Josh just like respond to your Instagram story? Is that what happened?
I think he it was like in the bio of my Instagram.
Oh, wow.
For like a minute. Like I think it was like for a month or two or something, and no one said anything. and then he like texted me and was like, hey, I think, it should be me. But I think he like needed to think about it too. Cause like he had been a musician forever and had been in like a couple bands that like had, got signed and did some touring. And like, it was a big part of his life for a while, but like had also kind of stepped away from it. It was just like, okay, like I'm just gonna go do adult life now. How many bands can I just like run around in,
Right.
And so I think that it took him a second too of being like, do I actually want to sign up for this, And he did.
That's so great. So you both had kind of like been in a little bit of like a place of maybe burnout.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it was that secret sauce moment of like, you know what? Coming out of retirement.
Exactly.
Like, man. And so how long ago was that?
5 years ago.
Okay, so like 2019-ish.
Yeah. Maybe actually this might have been 6 years because we worked on our music for years before we put anything out. I think like 3 years we like were getting together once or twice a week and like figuring out what we were doing and like just like writing and playing and like even learning how to write songs together, you know? I'm trying to think of the timeline of this because we had our first show booked the week that the COVID shutdown happened, and which is our first like time to play live.
Oh no.
And so actually at that point in time, we had been playing for 2 years. So 2018 would have been when we started. Yeah, that was so crazy. Our name was like up on like a marquee to like play our first show, and it was just up there for like 6 months.
Oh my God.
And at that point,
nobody was going to take it down.
Yeah, and at that point, our band was called Monstera.
Oh,
yeah, and we just hadn't. No one, our band wasn't out in the world yet.
Right.
But it was just such a slap in the face because it was like, okay, we're so excited. We've been working on this for years. And now all of a sudden, you know, headlines are like, is live music gone forever? You know, and you're like, how is this happening? Like how, but we really took it upon ourselves. We were like, okay, that's not going to be reality. Let's just keep grinding on this. We have more time than we ever did. So like which I know shouldn't have been. We were getting together all the time. Him and I were together a lot, and we were just writing music all the time. Yeah,
Perfect time.
And we wrote a ton of stuff, you know, and played immediately when we could, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what was your first show back? When did that happen?
That happened in 2021, and it was at this place called the Alberta Street Pub. Mm-hmm. Which is probably like,
I know that place.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we could sell like 50 tickets and we sold out in like a couple days. And it was
awesome.
so awesome because like I had built a very large community around my like cannabis companies and stuff here. And I had been like posting on Instagram for years that I had been working on this. So everyone was like, finally, like we could go like support her, you know? Yeah. And it was awesome. It was so fun.
That's really nice that everybody was like anticipating it.
Yeah. Well, it was so crazy because Hot Blooded really caught on. I like can't even believe how much it's caught on, especially as like the first song that I ever have put out as a musician, you know? But when I would post about it, people would always be like, what's that song? The just a little bit more song. And so we were like, okay, that's the song that everyone like remembers. So by the time we even got to play it live, even though we had just been playing it as stories, like everybody like knew like a lot of the words and stuff. And
well,
so
it's
it was so
incredibly catchy.
Thank you.
Yeah, incredibly catchy. Yeah, so you put out Hot Blooded in 2021? Yeah. What is that song about?
I wrote that song about this guy that I was dating. His name was Dave. He's a sweet angel. He had a traumatic brain injury.
Oh my God.
And while we were dating, he went skiing and shouldn't have and hit his head again and was really not the same. And like, so it was this like push and pull of like, I love you so much and you love me so much. And like, but it's like not like it can't happen. But like, I kept wanting it to happen and being like, if you can just like give me like a little bit more of like, you know, whatever you have, but he truly could not give me any more. He was like unwell, you know?
Hopeful yearning.
Hopeful yearning, exactly. And it was like, it's really fun because I wrote the song at his house while he was like downstairs in the garden. And I literally like sent it to Josh because I wrote it like on acoustic guitar and like quick style. And I like sent it to him. I was like, dude, I think I just wrote a good song. Like we got to work on this one day. And he was like, yeah, this is a good song. Like,
yeah, those are again, like some of them do just come out of your head fully formed.
Yeah.
But yeah, damn. That is like a rough situation. It's like, I know it's not your fault, but literally like you're physically incapable.
Yeah.
Wow. Shit.
Exactly.
So you were going to send us a recording of your demo of this, right?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to play that live too, or I do have the actual recording from my phone of the first one.
Yeah. If you're comfortable with that, we love that. Yeah.
It's definitely like not all the same lyrics, you know, and a couple different things, but like there is like a large amount that is like exactly the same.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So do you want to introduce it?
This is my original phone recording of Hot Blooded.
You've been dying out here, baby. Wondering why I'm acting so crazy. Just a little more, just a little more. You know what it means, girl. You know what it means, girl. mine. You've been calling me out like it's childish, baby. I wonder if you know my style. Maybe I know that you want me, and that's why I've been keeping you home. And baby, baby, I've been waiting so long. Call me crazy, I don't know where we're wrong. Just a little more, just a little more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. Am I wrong that didn't you incorporate a little piece of that in the final recording of Hot Blooded? I love that. It's such a like nice little like cherry on top at the end of the song.
Dude, Josh really killed it with that when he wanted to do that. I was like, what? That's so weird. Like, are you sure? And I was like, no, this is freaking awesome. And like the whole like Hot Blooded part, the bridge at the end, like Josh and I wrote that together afterwards.
Oh, okay.
That's the part that's like that we added in. He did so good with that. It was
He really
unexpected.
did.
I was like, this is like, it really like wraps it up in this like really just beautiful way.
It's this like really sort of like raw, vulnerable moment. I like it. It's almost like, and good night or something.
And I feel like too that because the original one was a little bit slower, a little bit sadder, you know, and he was like, okay, this is great, but like this needs to be a lot different, you know? And I feel like that was also his like way of like honoring like, okay, this song was like also like really like,
Right.
you know.
That was his way of honoring the bedroom intention, but then like turning it into like a dancey track.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. And this is, again, why collaboration is so awesome.
It's so good.
So you're putting out a song next week
Yes.
and you're going on tour with Cannons.
Yes.
That's amazing. How many dates are you doing?
10 dates.
Nice. And is it all like West Coasty or?
No, it's 3 West Coasts, and then we like go over to like Louisville, Kentucky, and Chicago and Columbus, and all the way up to Toronto. It's like all over the place.
That's
honestly.
amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really exciting. You get to like get around the country a little bit.
Dude, it's like a dream too, because like, so are you familiar with the band Drama?
Uh-huh.
They're so good, and I love them, and they love us, and like it's been really crazy because I'm like, how is this like superstar like loves Hot Blooded? She's like always posting videos with it and stuff. And we got to go watch their show here, and they're from Chicago, and so they're like, dude, we're gonna come to your show, and it's so cool because Cannons played right after Drama at Coachella this year.
Oh,
and so we're all
neat.
like, okay, we're like all gonna hang out. And I'm like, what reality am I living in right now? You know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm very
congratulations. You know, can't wait to hear the new song. And thank you for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't thought about a lot of these things in a long time, and it feels like a great story. I was like hearing it all out. I was like, wow, we really went through our ups and downs in this journey, you know?
We like to pull it out of you. Thank you so much. Man, if this isn't the story of things happening when the time is right, I don't know what is. There were some big roadblocks along the way, and that was before the pandemic derailed their first show. But I don't know. I'm always really inspired by people who take their time and really intentionally work at developing and creating things they truly feel proud of, because patience is a virtue. But things are certainly working out for them now. Since I talked to Harlee in July, they've put out a couple more songs, including Next Life, which came out December 8th, and they went on a North American tour. They've got more coming, so follow them on social media and Spotify to keep up to date. You can follow us too, and we hope you will. All the relevant links will be in our show notes as always, as well as links to the other fun things we talked about in the episode. Guys, this is the second to last episode of season 2, and I can't freaking believe it. 2023 is almost over, and it is like most definitely winter. I would not be surprised if you can hear the wind whistling outside my window right now. It's insane. So, being that it's the holiday season, if you want to get us a gift, head over to your favorite podcasting platform, follow us, rate us, and leave us a review. Otherwise, all we want for Christmas is you, baby. Happy holidays. We'll see you next week for our year-end wrap-up.